Austria, in Italy, in Germany, and in Poland. Hello, good afternoon. So last week it was something. It was a premium estates of Austria tasting, and it was something like, let's say, an earthquake. And today is another earthquake. I believe today is we have respekt BIODYN tasting. Let me introduce Mr. the Count Michael from Minecore, who is going to say few word introduction. And just let me recall you two things. As traditionally spittoons, we use them, okay, and chat, we also use it. And yes, and this is very highly unprofessional what I'm going to say, but it's perhaps the last words today. My words today is today I'm going to meet my first love. Okay, so my very first love in the category of Austrian red wines. So this is quite a special day. Yeah. Now, Michael, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. A great welcome from us, the respekt BIODYN Group, international wine growers. We are pleased to have this tasting webinar with you, and I hope everybody got the wines, so you can also get not only to see us and to hear us, but also the wines we produce, which is the most important thing. Next picture. We are a biodynamic movement since 2007. Where 12 wine growers who were learning about biodynamics since 2005. So we were in the way to get biodynamic certified. We founded this group, respekt BIODYN, not to be better, not to be very different to other groups already existing like Demeter or like BIODYN. But we had many things in common. And so we thought, together with our teacher, who was Andrew Laurent, a fantastic person who translated Rudolf Steiner and the biodynamic way of cultivating and living to us. And he enhanced us to start this group, respekt BIODYN. We have been, in the first year, we have been 12 wine growers, mainly from Austria and me from Italy. And now we are, at the moment, we are 26. Next, please. So as you can see here, this was in a winter meeting. We meet 2 times a year for internal exchange, for our friendship, to learn more, to meet other wine people. And so we always have a lot of fun. We are all very good friends, and it's great to be part of this group and learn and exchange together our experiences of biodynamic viticulture. Next, please. Well, our philosophy is to, first of all, to live a sustainable life. So it's not only how we treat our vineyards, how we treat our plants, people, animals. It's to live sustainable as a person, and then to be able to cultivate, to be a good farmer and to cultivate our land, our vineyard sites in a very gentle and biodynamic way to produce elegant products, elegant wine in first case. So we follow the principles of Rudolf Steiner, 1924, but it's important to go on, to learn more, to exchange, and to see what comes for the future, for the next generations. Next picture, please. What are the ideals for our wines, for respekt wines? First of all, that they are produced following biodynamic principles, to become elegant and very balanced wines. We don't want to make concentrated wines. We want to make wines as natural as possible, which doesn't mean that they all have to be orange wines. Some are, some are not. The most important thing is wines that have a great balance, a very drinkable, elegant, and very individual. So individuality is very important for us. Yeah, you can go on next picture, please. And how do we work? So first of all, we have to be good farmers. Before you become a biodynamic grower, you have to be a good farmer who knows his land, who knows the people, who knows the soil, and who understands the interaction of the soil, the plants, the cosmic forces, and what we can do for it. So we do use preparations. The two most known ones are 500 and 501. In another way, it's horn silica and horn compost, horn manure. But we also implement a lot of teas, for instance, stinging nettle tea, to stimulate the plants to get stronger, to build up a better immunity system. The same with chamomile tea, which we use when plants or when nature gets under stress after a hailstorm, if it's too dry, too hot, too wet. So with plant extracts, we stimulate our nature to get a better immunity system and to get into a balance to produce good fruit. Next, please. An important part for us are all the animals we can have. And it's not important that everybody has cows and horses, because some vineyards are too small for that. Some don't have the stables. It starts with the very little animals in the soil, in the ground. So we do a lot of cover crop to enrich the soil with life. Only soil which is full of life can really feed the plants well and also bring good fruit. But we also everybody individual as an individual winery or estate. Some of our friends have, as you see here, goats. Some have sheep, chicken, cows. Everything is good, from the big animals to the smallest, to lots of ants and worms who work the soil again. So working together with these animals bring back a soul to our soil, a soul into our vineyards. Next picture, please. So here you see, this is in a vineyard. This is a cover crop, so-called cover crop, which we seed between the rows, and it enriches the soil. It brings more air and better water drainage into the soil. It attracts the insects, which are very important for us. And as long as all the insects are here and work together, then one doesn't get a bad bug. So we need the insects, we need these cover crop to bring a better soil and a better food for our plants. The next picture is here. You see, this is from horn manure. You see also a worm. So the best soil is always full of humus. Our teacher, Andrew Laurent, was always telling us humus, humus, humus. It's the most important thing for good life in our vineyards. It works like a sponge. It when there is too much rain, it keeps the water in the soil. If there is not enough rain, there is still some humidity in the soil through this humus, and it also is the best food for little animals and for the plant. So all together are the important tools for biodynamic growers. Let us go on to the next sheet. Here you can see our members. The largest number of members is in Austria. There we are at the moment 17 wineries with 630 hectares. You also below you see the name of the different growers. And the great thing is, even if we are in different areas, we are all good friends and helping each other. Next, please. In Germany, at the moment, we are 7 wineries and 145 hectares. And the next picture you see in Italy, at the moment, we are 2, Foradori and Manincor. And one winery is one part in Austria and one part in Hungary. We see it on the next sheet. So it's international, but at the moment we are all German speaking, so it's easier for us to communicate. As I told you, we are a great group of friends. Meeting next time, our next meeting where we all meet in Austria is end of November, where we taste the latest wines, where we learn more about going deeper into biodynamics. We have never learned enough, so we need to continue to learn, and it's a great pleasure. And I think there is one slide left in the end. I hope we will have the chance now to present you our wines. Unfortunately, we can't hear you, but we are happy if you can learn a little bit of us, of what we are doing, for what we stand, and that we just like to make really good wines, very drinkable wines for you to enjoy. Thank you very much for following my introduction, and I think we can then start with the first wine and the first wine grower. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
Sorry for interrupting. There is one question. What is the difference between Demeter and Respekt BIODYN? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we can hear you.
Now. Sorry for being late.
In the principles from the beginning, there's not a big difference. So we work both following the Rudolf Steiner's science and what he taught people in 1924. We are a smaller group and we are only wine growers. Demeter combines the whole world in biodynamic growing, from farmers with deer, from everything. And in the beginning, Demeter didn't really allow or didn't really want to have wine and alcohol in their program. So when we started, alcohol was still a discussion, and we said we are convinced that we can produce a very good wine in a biodynamic way. So we founded this group. And we are also going beyond only biodynamic growing. We care a lot about themes, problems of today, like use of energy, waste, many other things that make our life and our world more sustainable.
Thank you, Michael. I'm sorry to be late. I wanted to be here in the beginning, but had some technical problems. So I'm saying hello on behalf of Respekt BIODYN, and I'm very happy being here and co-moderating with Piotr. And if it is fine with you, Piotr, I would call the first producer, who is Franz Wehrheim, or Aurelia from Wehrheim Winery in Germany.
Of course, Sylvia. Of course, yeah.
All of the producers have in about 10 minutes time to present the winery, the philosophy, then there is the tasting, and then they'll be happy to answer your questions. Thank you.
Yes, hello also from my behalf. I'm very happy to present the wine estate Wehrheim. I'm Aurelia, I'm Franz's wife, and he's now the 4th generation of Weingut Dr. Wehrheim. Let's start the presentation, and please go on to the next slide. Here are some important facts about the winery. It is located in the Pfalz Palatinate area, and more specific in Birkweiler at the Weinstraße. The focus of the estate is on the German grape varieties, especially on Riesling, Pinot Blanc, and Pinot Noir. The winery is working organic and biodynamic, and we are a member of the VDP since 1991. Next slide, please. So there's this very special and unique situation of different soils and soil structures around the small town of Birkweiler. There are 4 different types of soil. And the first type is the trial soil. It's more a colored sandstone, limestone, and Keuper soil. The second is the red slate soil from the Rotliegende. But the third one is the soil for the Pinots, and it's the limestone soil. With its good nutrition and water holding capacity, it's very full and rich of calc, and it's a great match for the Pinots of wine estate Wehrheim. Next slide, please. It's let's take a closer look to the vineyard Mandelberg, which you are tasting today, because Mandelberg is a very unique single vineyard. It's about 250 meters above sea level, and it's located directly under the Palatinate forest, as you can see in the background of the photo. And due to its limestone soil, we are growing mostly or only Pinot grapes varieties on it, and especially the Pinot Blanc. The limestone soil is marked by its high calc content, and it has a really great impact on the wines, of course. So you will see and taste in the wine you'll have now the smokiness and the good acidity coming through. It's also one of the most important single vineyards when it comes to Pinots in Germany. Next slide, please. Yeah, please go ahead and taste the wine. Meanwhile, I'm explaining a little bit more about the soil and where it's coming from. So in the Mandelberg, or the grapes which are coming out of the Mandelberg, are pressed to 2 different styles of wines. First of all, and most important, it's the GG. It's called Mandelberg. So the second one is the Birkweiler Weißburgunder, which you are tasting today. It's from the vintage 2020. It is from the limestone terroir. So this character has a lot of impact on the wines, as I said already. The character of the limestone shows perfectly the terroir of the vineyard, but also the philosophy of the wine and the wine estate. Without a lot of interference, you receive really great grapes from the vineyard. Of course, you have to put a lot of focus into getting the high qualities, especially during this year. We all know that 2021 was a little bit more tough vintage to cultivate, but especially 2020 was very perfect to get ideal grapes. They are picked by hand, of course, and at the right time, you will see the great balance of ripeness, aromas, phenols, and also the acidity. I think the acidity is one of the most iconic characters of this wine that you will see and taste now. Everything, as I said, is picked by hand, destamped, and is processed 1 day on maceration, but then pressed and sedimented in stainless steels, fermenting. Next up and last slide is about us, and you'll see again our beautiful area. And please let me know any question you'll have in the chat, and I'm happy to answer all your questions about the wine and the estate.
No questions so far, so I think you just taste quietly and maybe there are some questions after.
Yeah, so in my opinion, 2020 shows its perfect combination of the acidity, but also of the fruitiness, but more the minerality which is coming through this wine. And as I said, the smokiness in the wine. Of course, it's a very young wine, and you will see a great development after time. But in my opinion, it already shows this elegant style of the acidity combined with the elegant aromas coming through. So I'm very interested in how you are tasting the wines now. Sylvie, do you have any questions for me to tell you something, or should I just give you some time?
I just wanted to call Piotr, who is having the wines, I think. Maybe, Piotr, what's your impressions? Anybody else who wants to say something on the wines?
Sorry, I'm just in technical issues with Gerhard Pittnauer. But yeah, you know, what to say about the wine. I visited Pfalz some years ago, and when I taste now these wines, it's so completely different. You know, I mean, the Riesling, this it's well, it's difficult to express. I'm sorry. It's perhaps not at this time, but it's yeah.
Do you mean the differences between the generations? Do you see a difference there, or is it more in the wines?
No, in the I mean in the generations. I mean the you know when you taste now the because we have several wines here and this is so different now than it was. So you know it's a little bit case of Weinviertel from now and from some year ago, right? Okay. And I'm not enough experienced to say this is because of the methods of production, or this is just a changing of the you know this the generations changing. Yeah,
I think there are a couple of reasons, and as Michael already said, every winemaker here in this group is focused on becoming better and always developing. So I think what is a huge influence on the wines is, of course, the change of generations from Karl-Heinz to Franz Werham, but they are still working together in very great harmonic. So they are really focused on going the way together. I think that's one part of it. So the style, of course, was adjusted a little bit more to Franz fingerprint, but they are always tasting together. Both are working during the harvest and putting a lot of thoughts into the wine style of Werham. But of course, there's also huge influence on the weather, and we all know that it is becoming more and more different than what it was used to maybe 10 years ago or 20 years ago. So of course we have to adjust at that point as well. At the moment, it's quite in our favor, the exchange of weather, because the sun and all the weather conditions are quite good for Rieslings, but also for Pinots here in this area. So I think this is also why the style is maybe also adjusted a little bit. But in my opinion, it's still this very fine wine, very concentrated and straightforward. So that's always been the fingerprint of Werham, with this acidity coming in all wines, not just the Riesling, but also the Pinot Noirs. But you also see and really taste the difference of the soils in the wines, and that's, in my opinion, what it is most important in the winery, and also in this group here of BIODYN.
Just to be honest, I don't want to say the past was bad and now is good. That's not the case, not the issue. But it's so different. It's to me it's so different. Or just I just started to ask myself whether my memory goes, or this is a different producer, right?
Piotr, I see we have to taste a lot more together so that you'll get to know all the wines. And I'm happy to also show you some older vintages. And I'm sure Franz and Karl-Heinz will show you the great development of our wine estate. And of course, and that's the drive, we will still continuing working on the quality to become even more precise and great in quality.
You have joined Respekt in 2016, if I remember it right. Might have been some changes since then, being more into working biodynamically?
Definitely. I mean, we know that there's a difference. Michael said it before. It is the focus on not just the wines which are then produced, but also during the time of ripeness in the vineyards. It is working with the vineyards, it's working with the soil. He said humus, humus, humus. It is like that you have to focus on the importance of having a healthy and really vivid soil structure so that you can produce even better grapes. Because of course, Franz and Karl-Heinz can only continue the work in the cellar to produce a high quality wine, but it's the first step to have great vineyards, of course. So biodynamic was definitely one of the great changes in the wine estate to become even higher in quality.
Yes, definitely. So thanks so much, Aurelia. Well, there is one question. Yvonne is just saying we will taste much more wines with you and Piotr with pleasure.
I'm looking forward, and I hope we will be able to come to Poland soon. So thank you very much for having me. And if you have any questions afterwards, please feel free to contact us in the winery or on any ways possible.
Thank you, Aurelia.
Thank you. Bye.
I'm calling for Carmen. Carmen, she's Austrian from Weinviertel, and she is bringing Grüner Veltliner, of course.
Hi, and Dzień dobry over there. Hopefully you can hear me. Yes? So I hope it should work.
Yes, it works. Yes, it works. Fine.
Perfect. Yes, I'm Carmen from Weingut Zillinger, and we are located in Ebenthal. But maybe I should say first, I didn't prepare a PowerPoint because it has been pretty busy here in our place as well. But I'm gonna do it very puristic, and yeah, I think it should be fine. So we are located in Ebenthal. It is in the northeastern part of Austria. It is about 8 hours driving to Warsaw. and it is more or less the hottest and even driest region or part of Austria, which means we do have about 300 to 400 liters yearly precipitation and very hot days and cool nights. Yeah, we, Herbert and me, so we took over the winery in, Herbert took it over from his parents, I think in a little bit before 2000. And I got known to Herbert in 2005, and then we started to do it together. So I think it is a good thing because we really felt absolutely free. There was no long history which we had to take care. So we've really been allowed to do our own story, which makes us feel good. And I think we are really lucky. We are part of the Respekt BIODYN group since 2017, I think. And when our youngest daughter, Amelie, was born, we decided to work organic. And so we are really very happy about being member of Respekt because it is a perfect group. As Michael told before, it is really a deep friendship and a perfect group for learning and becoming better somehow. Very typical for the wine growing area where we are from. It is called the Weinviertel, and it is very famous, I think, or it has always been famous for Grüner Veltliners, and that's what we are doing. So we are really focused on Grüner Veltliner, and we think it is a perfect area for this grape. Our vineyards, they are located in Ebenthal and somehow in the neighborhood. So, and our most important vineyards, or one of our most important vineyards, I would say it is Vogelsang, and it is a very special soil on the Vogelsang. It is a very dry and sandy limestone, and this is even where Grüner Veltliner Radikal grows. And so you're very welcome to taste right now with me. Nostrovje, I think that's what you say. Yeah. Grüner Veltliner Radikal vintage 2019. It was, I would say more or less, it was one of our very best vintages we had so far. It was a very good year with enough rainfall, I would say, with very hot days and very cool nights. Grüner Veltliner Radikal 2019, of course, it was handpicked for sure, and we harvested it in the middle of October. It was gently pressed, and the must ran directly into the big used oak barrels. It is 1,000 liters. And in the oak barrels, it is aged on the lees for a year without pantonnage or racking or pumping, so nearly without doing anything. And a small batch of the Grüner Veltliner Radikal was made with a few days skin fermentation. And Grüner Veltliner Radikal, it was 1 year in the barrel and 1 year in the bottle. What Grüner Veltliner Radikal means for us, it is a wine which we allow ourselves to push the limits. And sometimes it is a great risk, but it's always great fun for us. That's how we do, or how we feel about it. And the grapes, it is a selection from the oldest vines, of course. And what we try is we really are searching for a perfect balance of the grapes. And this allows us to work very puristic, even in the in our kind of winemaking, I would say. So we do not, what we do is actually we do nothing comes in and nothing comes out. And just, of course, a few grams of sulfur before bottling, but that's all. what is very special maybe even as well is we do not use irrigation at any vineyards, even though it is very dry sandy limestone for Radical. And this is possible, I think, because of the way how we work, because of the BIODYN work, because the vines are really healthy, and we even can stand some periods of hot days and dry days, but that's how it works. So sometimes if it is really very hot, the vines do stop growing and do stop developing somehow, but it goes on again after there have been some rainfalls or weather is getting a little bit cooler, I would say. Yeah, so that's the story about Grüne Veltliner Radical. So na zdrowie, I really hope you have already tasted.
As you said, I mean, this is very special, not using any irrigation, especially in times of climate change. And this could be a huge chance for all wineries worldwide using this kind of keeping vineyards and treating the soils, because water will be a huge problem. So you're one of the pioneers.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, indeed. So especially in our region of the part of Austria where we live, we can see it day after day. There are a lot of big farmers, actually, so there are more or less these mixed agricultures, and they are really big farmers. They are doing carrots and potatoes and peas and I don't know, all this stuff. And of course, they are fighting for water. So that's what happens, indeed. And we can see day after day. Some of them are really good friends of us, so they are working on biodynamic or even biologic as well, but it does not work for them without irrigation, but we can do it.
Yeah, especially if they would use drop irrigation, not spray, it would be a big step already, but I think normally they still use like huge irrigation systems spraying on top.
Yeah, indeed, that's what the farmers do for producing vegetables. But in the wine growers, we can see in our area they are using this drop irrigation. But yeah, so we are happy without it, and we just can say, hey, come on, it really works.
Yeah. Coming back to the Veltliner, does anyone have a question regarding the wine? Because I think this Grüne Veltliner is really on the edge. You still have the grape, you can sense the Veltliner, but it could be something else as well already. So it is, yeah, as you said, strengthen the limits of Grüne Veltliner.
Yeah.
No questions, Piotr?
Yeah, so I have a question about the name, the Radical, because this actually, to me, and correct me if I'm wrong, to me, the taste itself of the Radical is not very radical, let's say. It's more towards a classic one. Yeah, to me, it's more towards model, let's say, and the methods, perhaps. Yes, so Radical is the methods of production, and because this is, tasting the wine and looking for any or anarchy or whatever, revolutionary. It's I didn't find it, actually.
No, actually, Piotr, thank you for asking. I forgot about it. Radical, the name, it is because of radix, the roots. So because these are very oldest and very deep vines, yeah, that's why it is. And even I would say it's not, I would say our stylistic is not radical at all. I think what I usually call it, or what we call it, is somehow maybe, or for me, it is a kind of new classics of Grüne Veltliner, because there is, I think this very special thing about we really work very puristic and even very pragmatic. So we do not, nothing is added and nothing is removed. And maybe that's somehow a little bit radical as well, you know, but for me, in the very best way.
Yeah.
I'm not sure about the pronunciation of Polish names. I think it's Wojciech. He says it's a radical different cleaner. And Hotel Style writes, hi, it's Archie from Krakow. A really intense color for Grüner cleaner. Was there more time on skins, some oxidation on purpose?
Actually, I think the color is from the skin contact. Indeed, but these very technical questions, I'm sorry, I really have to ask my husband. But of course, it is from the contact with the skins. So the skins, the grapes, we do harvest it pretty early in the morning, and we do press it pretty gentle. But one batch of the wine, it is fermented a few days on the skins. So I'm sure that's why it is.
Thank you. There's another question of Ivona. Is it not too risky not to irrigate? In general, seems to be somehow risky not to interfere into the cultivation. Do you consider any type of insurance for the bad years?
Yes. No, actually, there's no kind of insurance for maybe bad years, of course, but I just can say it really works. If we really work very hard in the vineyards, and we work a lot, and we work very precise, I would say. And Herbert, my husband, he's not here today because we are going to start harvesting tomorrow, and he's working like crazy in the vineyards, to be honest. And we do have a great team, and we really do have, I think, we got a very good feeling for our vineyards. And so we can see, and yeah, we do work very gentle in the whole, I would say.
And we had some very dry years, and you had good wines, so
absolutely. So, and as I've told before, we are really the very hottest and driest region in Austria. So we do have, I don't know, about 300 liters of rainfalls per year. It's really pretty less, but I simply can say it really works.
What is the main soil of these Grüner grapes?
Yeah, it is sandy limestone. It is a vineyard. It's in Ollersdorf, so it's I don't know. I think it's about 3 kilometers from Ebenthal, and it is next to a wood, and the sandy limestone there. It's really very very karg. Sylvie, what means karg? I'm sorry. I'm just
poor
very poor soil indeed. And you can see it year after year in the vineyards. So the vines, they really bring out very small berries, and they develop very very gentle and very slow somehow. But that's a very special soil and a very very special microclimate, I would say, on this Vogelsang, on this vineyard.
So I think this is it for the moment with the Radikal. Thanks so much, Carmen.
Thank you so much, and hope to see you soon. Actually, I thought maybe we're gonna meet on the weekend. We have planned to go to a bar. It was called Dilettanti, I've heard. But we are going to start harvesting, so I can't come, unfortunately.
But good luck for
next time. Yeah. So thank you so much, and have a nice evening. And do widzenia, I think that's what they say. Thank you.
Do widzenia, Carmen. Do widzenia. It was a pleasure.
Do widzenia. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Carmen. We are moving to Germany, to Pfalz, to the next generation of Weingut Rebholz estate, and it's one of the twin brothers, Valentin, right, who is here presenting his Birkweiler Riesling.
So, now, hi. I'm happy to be here and to talk a little bit about our winery. Aurelia, talk a little bit about our special town, about Birkweiler. We are neighbors here in Birkweiler, Weingut Wehrheim, and also friends. And we work in the same vineyard sites. On this picture, you can see the Kastanienbusch with the red color and the Mandelberg with the blue color. On the left side, this vineyard is the vineyard from the Riesling from Limestone, which Aurelia present first. So, but some facts about our estate. I'm the fourth generation of wine grower here in the family after the war. Our family works in wine since 100 of years. Our family name is Rebholz, which means, or which is translated in wood of the wine. And so you can hear that our history is really, really long in working with wines. My grandfather, Eduard Rebholz, he was one of the pioneers in the south part of Pfalz who work with the old methods. And the old methods are the methods who are now absolutely en vogue, because before the industrialization of wine growing and œnology, everything works, but you need much more time. And since this date, we don't fine wines, we don't use chaptalization, we add really nothing, we add only sulfur, and this since over 80 years. And I think this is unique in Germany. And so 15 years ago, my father, Hans-Jörg, he talked a lot with other wine growers around Germany and also of Austria, and he wanted to add one part more to this natural art of œnology. And in 2005, we switched to organic winery, and also we switched to biodynamic production. Since 2015, we are a part of Respekt BIODYN, and we are really happy to work with such a great group in extremely high quality part of the biodynamic wine. I show you now Riesling from Birkweiler. This is also a village wine. In the VDP in Germany, we produce wine on 4 different quality levels. The entry level is the estate wine. The estate wine present a variety and a estate, and also a region. And the wine I present you now is a Riesling from a special town. It's a village wine, and in this special, or here in our winery, we also add to the name of the town, we add also the name of the soil. Aurelia tell you before, here in our town we work on 4 different soils, and for us it's impossible to produce a village wine with a character if we don't select on soils. And so we produce in one village 4 different village wines, and now I represent you the Riesling from Rotliegende, which is really difficult to translate because Rotliegende, it's a name. On this picture you see a lot different stones. Of course you see red slate, but most is from volcanic volcanic soil with black slate and melafure, and in some parts you find also red slate. But this soil brings extremely herbal notes in the wine, and not the typical Riesling fruit, but a really special fruit. Sometimes a little bit more exotic, and in some vintages a little bit more green, but really typical in every vintage is this long acidity on palate and this strong minerality. And in the winery, we destem all of our grapes and have a skin contact for 24 hours. We think this is necessary to have a wine with a high aging potential. We don't want to produce the loudest and the most open wine in the first years. We want to produce a wine with a high aging potential. And perfect time to drink our wine is, of course, in the first 1 or 2 years, but the best time to drink a Riesling from our estate together with food is after 5 years. And between 5 and 15 years, I think it's best to open a wine from our estate. Yeah, I think this is it. But Piotr, if you can go back to the map, then I explain you a little bit about, yes, here. Yeah, on this map, you see this is a map of the different soils from our region, and you see nearly the whole Pfalz. In the south, it's Weißenburg, it's French, and in the north, it's Bad Dürkheim. And the most of the orange part in the west is the Palatinate forest, which is the biggest forest in Middle Europe. And this forest brings in our region also in the summer the cool air from the west. And this is necessary to produce in vintages like 2015 and 2018 elegant wines. We are directly in the biggest valley from the Palatinate forest, and you see around this big valley, you see much or the most different colors, and every different color is a different soil. And this is here you can see our diversity in soils. In the east or in the northeast, you see it's nearly everything is yellow and orange, and yellow and orange is löss soil and sandstone soil. But the brown soil, it's rotliegendes, and the violet soil, it's shell limestone. Yeah, but please ask questions and
I'm having a question. This Riesling is quite low in alcohol. Is this on purpose, or is it happening due to the vintage?
Yeah, it's I think it's a vintage thing, because we look in every year for the perfect ripening. In some vintages with warmer weather and with a little bit more water, it could be happen that Riesling also have 12.5 or 13 alcohol. But in the last vintage, we had nearly perfect conditions over the whole year, and in the harvest, weather changed completely, and it was a really cool harvest. And we like harvests like this because you have a lot of time, and you have a long ripening time without too much sugar in grapes and without too much alcohol in wine. And often these vintages are the vintages with the highest aging potential.
Yes, there is a change in generations going on your winery. Would you like to say something about that?
Yes, since 3 years, my twin brother and I are 100% in the winery. We finished our study in 2018, and since this we work 100% here. But for us, it's a part of our life. So since we can walk and we can we talk about the winery, we talk about wine, and for us it's the biggest. We are really happy to live here and to work with this great to work in this great area with wines and with this big history. It's a joy.
So are you taking over the both of you, I guess, as
Yes.
twins? Do you like share competences, or do you have your own competences and Hans different ones?
No, not really. And it's really easy to understand because I think wine, or to be a winemaker, it's one of the best jobs in agriculture, because we work in the vineyard, in the field. We ferment our grapes and we sell it to the customer. We talk about the product, what we grow in the vineyard. And this is the reason why we don't split us here in the winery. And I love every part of the winery, and my brother Hans also. And so we work both in every part, and at the moment Hans is for his last internship in Burgundy, and now I'm here alone in the winery. But this is I think one of the best things if you are a twin, because it's no problem.
Because of this strong connection you have, or?
Yes. My father, he's also in the winery, or he's still in the winery, and he he has a absolutely long history. He starts in the winery with 19, because my grandfather dies really early, and I think we are really happy to work together.
Time to take over.
Yes.
We have some questions. With the change of generations, do you plan to introduce changes due to climate change?
Yeah, I think the climate change is it's our biggest challenge now, and you see it in Germany. What's happened in the summer in the Ahr Valley? It's I think it's so bad, and at the moment with the climate change, we could be really happy, because the weather is at the moment absolutely perfect to grow wine here. But the climate change is much too fast, and I think everybody have to do what's possible to stop it.
Yeah. So biodynamic wine growing is very helpful, I think, in
Yes, of course.
tackling climate change. So thanks so much, Valentin. We have
You're
to
welcome.
move on, keep time.
Yeah.
And we're just moving a little bit further north from Siebeldingen to Gimmeldingen. Sophie Christmann, also the daughter by now, taking over. Hello, Sophie.
Hi.
Hi. And you as well, you brought a Riesling, right?
Yes, and I would also like to share my screen to show you a little bit of our area. I tried to keep it short since it's our first day of harvest. I also have to get back to the grapes and to the press house. Just to give you a little bit an idea of the region, that is how it looks where my family's winery is. It's like we are very close to the forest and are one of the most southern Riesling growing regions in Germany. So the hills are very smooth, so there are no steep slopes here, luckily. So it's a little bit easier for us to work than in many other German regions. We are also a very old family estate. I'm the 8th generation that is working in the winery, and I'm running it since 4 years already, together with my father. He has been the one who started to produce mostly Riesling, but also Pinots that really aim to show their origin and the soil and the vineyards. And so our estate is very focused. We only grow Riesling and Pinot Noir because we believe that we cannot be very good at doing everything, and so we specialize in the things that we like the most. Working in harmony with nature has, of course, also always been important to us, especially because I've been raised with the mindset that the greatest capital that our family owns is the healthiness of our soils, because if we cannot harvest good grapes that make great wines from our vineyard soils, then there's nothing left to our estate. And so sustainability has already been very important to my grandfather, so it was very natural for my father to change to organic and biodynamic farming in 2004 and 2005. And we handpick all our grapes, and also the Riesling that you are tasting today was handpicked, and there's only a very light clarification of the juice, and then we put the Riesling in one of those big barrels that you see in the picture, and the must ferments there spontaneously, of course, and then it ages on the yeast until late summer before it gets bottled. And here you can see the village that the wine comes from. It's Gimelding. It's the village where our winery is. The wine stems from Gimeldinger Bienengarten, which is a site that is a little bit protected from the cool wind that we get from the valley in the Palatine Forest that is just behind the village. But it's still a rather cool site if you look at the Mittelhart region, the core part of Pfalz, that is in general a little bit warmer. And 2017 was also a rather cool vintage, so there's quite a bit acidity. And we chose this Riesling for you because we wanted to show the aging potential and also the style that the Rieslings have when they are not that young anymore. So in our opinion, 2017 is just opening up for its first appearance. Because now it's not so young anymore, but it's still not old. Like it could easily age for another 10 years. And so, but I hope it's nice and enjoyable right now.
Thank you, Sophie. If there is not any question coming from the audience, I would say we don't keep you from working, rushing back to the cellars. Any questions? Otherwise, we say thanks to Sophie and give our regards to Steffen, your father.
Thank you. And I hope you'll have a great tasting, and I go back to the press house.
Yeah, just one point. I really like the purity of this wine, and this and yes, and I have to add. Sophie is. I think there's no more than 40 years of difference between you and me, and you managed to do the screen sharing very fast. I'm able to do it.
So I've got many talents.
Yeah, you got many talents. Congrats.
Thanks. Okay, have a nice tasting. Bye.
Bye, Sophie. Thank you. We remain in Pfalz, another family business, as all of our wineries are. Two brothers again working together, Georg and Martin Fusser. And this is Georg being here, sharing Spätburgunder, a Pinot Noir with us. Georg, you need to come online. Please open your camera and micro. Here we go.
Hey everybody, hey Silvia, hey Piotr, and hey all the people around with us. We are family estate, just very close to Sophie, and we are as well growing biodynamically since 2011, and we joined the group in 2017. The idea of my brother and me, we founded the winery in 2007, and the idea was a bit to grow only the regional grapes. So we have 60% of Riesling and 35% of Pinot Noir, and so I thought, when we have already a Riesling from Sophie, which is just 6 kilometers away from us, I will show you a Pinot Noir from red and yellow sandstone. So we are just the map before, please. We are located in a small town called Niederkirchen by Deidesheim. So Deidesheim is a quite known small town with so we are bordering to Forst and to all the very known Grand Crus in the middle of so Mittelhart, which is the middle of the Pfalz region. It's a little bit different to southern Pfalz. The estate Repolz already talked a lot about the different soils they have. So we have mostly we have red and yellow sandstone, and in Ruppertsberg we have a little bit of Kalkmerkel, which is a very old soil of limestone. And for us, it's the idea to start growing biodynamically was unfortunately just the balance of the wines. When I was in Wagram 2008, I was working for another member of the group, Bernhard Ott, for 7 months, and there I got in contact with the biodynamic idea, with the biodynamic working, and we were, during harvest, we were driving a lot around and tried some grapes, and in the end, it was very fascinating for me that biodynamically grown grapes were always much more aromatic than conventional and even normal organic grown grapes. And so that was for me the start to start growing biodynamically. So it was in the beginning it was just the idea of making a good wine which shows the terroir in every structure. So in the glass we have 2018 Deidesheimer Herrgottsacker Premier Cru, Erste Lage. We are not in the VDP, but we are doing the classification as the VDP since 2011. It is a very easy structure of the wines. So you have the estate wines, then you have the village wines, which shows the very typical terroir from the different villages or small towns. And then you have the Premier and the Grand Crus. So in the glass, so Riesling and Pinot Noir is very similar for me. And it's always the idea to show the potential and even the terroir. So red and yellow sandstone is a very fruity soil, and it always, so we have the limestone, which is very, very herbal, very structured, very mineralic, and you have the sandstone, which is always a little bit fruitier. And so in the Riesling, you usually have very typical stone fruits like peach and mirabelles and very ripe apricot. And it's exactly the same in the Pinot Noir. So in the Herrgottsacker 2018, you have a lot of red stone fruits. Yeah, so that was the first introduction, and I would be pleased for some questions.
Any questions regarding the Spätburgunder, Piotr?
Well, this is just coming back to your history, Georg. So you started your adventure with biodynamic methods on the practice at Bernard Ott, or you went to Bernard Ott because you were interested in biodynamics?
Actually, it was a little bit of both. So for me, the first focus was I love people who are very focused, and so Bernard Ott is a fascinating Grüne Veltliner winemaker, and he does like 95% of Grüne Veltliner, and then a little bit of Riesling and a little bit of rosé, but doesn't really matter, and in his whole production. And so for me, the first thing when I decided going to Bernard Ott was that he is so focused, and it was exactly my thinking that I want to be so focused on the Riesling and on the Pinot Noir, but mainly on the Riesling. And when I went there, I just recognized that he's working biodynamically, because in the Pfalz region in this time, in 2008, there were a couple of wineries starting a little bit with biodynamics. There was Bürklin Wolf. They started in beginning of 2000s. But I would say for usual wine growers, it was a little bit crazy. Why do you spray some tea? Because it's not usual. And then you have always to think about, in our region, we are very close to the BASF, which is just 20 kilometers away. And so the region has 24,000 hectares and is the second biggest region in Germany. And so with the contact to the BASF, which is just down the valley, it was not used, or the region was not very prepared on working organically and biodynamically. And so I wasn't really in this. I was studying in Geisenheim, but the biodynamic growing lessons were like 20 hours in one semester. And so it doesn't really, everybody was smiling about it in 2008. But now a lot changed. And here in the village in Niederkirchen, we are like 12 producers, 10 are organic. And from these 10, 8 work biodynamic since a couple of years. So everything's changed, but in 2008, biodynamic growing wasn't really very common in our small town.
So we have to spread the words.
Yeah, exactly.
And the wines.
For me, the fascinating thing is always to show the most intense expression of terroir, and it really doesn't matter about the variety. You have always the same expressions.
Yeah, to be recognizable. Thanks so much, Georg.
Thank you. So have a nice tasting, everybody, and
give our regards to Martin.
I will, yes.
Bye, Georg.
Bye-bye.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Piotr.
We are moving south, jumping over Austria, coming to Italy, where there are 2 wine producers, Foradori, who just joined this year, and our chairman, Michael Goes-Ensenberg of Manincor. You have met him already.
Yes, I'm glad to be back and to explain to you a little bit about our estate Manincor. which you see here on the picture. It's an estate which was established in 1608 as a farm with wine. Today it's completely a winery. You see on the right side of the old building, you see our new wine cellar, which we built in 2001 to 2004, which is completely buried underneath the vineyard. So it helps for the climatization of a winery, and it's not visible from outside. So our area where we are, it's the very northern part of Italy. It's south of Austria. It's in the Dolomites. I'm sure many of you know the Dolomites. So please, next picture. Here you can see in the middle of the picture the winery. On the bottom is the Lake Caldaro, which is the warmest lake in the mountains, in the Alps. And on the back to the right, there is the beginning of the Dolomites. So many of you know the area for skiing. We have lots of guests from Poland who come to ski in our area. And so the great thing here is that we have a very interesting climate. The valley is open to the south, and we have all the Dolomites, the mountains in the back. So there is this tension between warm and cool climate. It's alpine and Mediterranean climate, and it's interesting for wine because we have lots of cool nights and very warm days. So it's great for red wines and for white wines in higher altitudes. Next picture, please. This is a picture from our biodynamic school when we were all learning about biodynamics, and it just gives you a little view of the holistic way we are working. On the bottom, there is the terroir, there is the soil, there is the globus, with its minerals, and then we are very little as human beings working together with the plants and the animals. But as important for us is the cosmos, are the cosmic forces of sun, of moon, of the planets. So all together, it's helping us to work in a great rhythm, with a rhythm of nature, to produce good grapes and in the end good wine. Please, next picture. This is the vineyard of Mazon, which you have, I hope you have in your glass. It's a Pinot Noir vineyard on 400 meters of sea level. In the very back, you see the lake, and the lake is on 200 meters of sea level. So we are already quite higher up here. It's a picture taken in spring where you see our cover crop, our diversity growing. There's different clovers and flowers and everything that enriches our soil. I love this moment in springtime when everything is so fresh, and we can eat the salad from our vineyards. Please, next picture. Another view in another vineyard, which is a little steeper, and a little later on, other plants, other flowers are appearing from our cover crop. This is Phacelia, and all the bees in the neighborhood come to our vineyards at that time, and they love this flower, the Phacelia. And of course, we also get really good honey from our bees. So we also, besides other animals, we also have bees in our vineyards. Next picture, please. This part is a part of our family, the sheep with a little lamb. We have about 50 sheep, and this winter of spring we had about 25 baby lambs. This is a picture taken in late winter when they work the soil, when they eat from the soil, when they rub themselves on the trunks. So it's not just that they put their manure to the ground and the ground is more fertile. The most important thing of animals in our vineyards are their soul. They bring back the anima, the soul to the vineyard. Next picture, please. Also chicken. This is also taken end of winter. I think it was already March when the vines were already taken care of. You see they are already trellised. And so they also work all day in the vineyard and give us good eggs. So we live really from these animals and with them, and they are a great part of our diversity. Next picture, please. Okay, water. Water together with with sun and soil are the most important things for every growth. Here I made a picture of one water drop on a leaf, and you see the vine, the shadow in the mirror of the water. So I just wanted to show you this picture because water is so important. We never need too much water, but we need enough water to keep our plants healthy. And then the next picture. On our estate, we also have a forest with quite a lot of oak trees. The one you see here is still too young for us. I hope it can still grow for another 50 years or more. But we can cut the oldest oak trees on our estate to be able to prepare them for barrels. Next picture, please. Then after cutting them, they stay for about 3 years in our courtyard to be seasoned. Also, the oak needs to be seasoned so you don't get oaky taste. Whenever you have a wine that has aged in barrels, the barrels shall be a perfect container for the wines to mature, but it should not mark the wine with oaky taste. So here I'm seeing the oak, if it's good already to make the barrels. Next picture, please. The barrels are not made by us self. We have a great cooper in Austria, Mr. Stockinger, who is fantastic in making barrels. These are the bigger barrels for fermenting red wines. Our Pinot Noir you are tasting, Maison 2019, fermented in these oak vats for about 3 weeks, and then we mature the wine in little oak barrels in barriques. Next picture, please. Which when they carry the name Manningkorn, then they are from our own forest and give us the possibility to express more territory and territorial character as if we would use only French oak. So we do also use French oak and German and Austrian oak because we don't have enough, but it's fantastic for us really to bring in our own territory with oak to produce territorial wines. Next picture, please. So this is a little later than now, but we started today to pick our grapes. So today it's we are very happy to pick healthy Sauvignon Blanc in our vineyards in Terlano. We have vineyards in Terlano and Caldaro. Terlano has better soil for the whites and Caldaro better soil for the reds. So here we are picking Sauvignon Blanc. And in the next picture, you see when they come into the winery. Next picture, please. So we take them off the tractors and we weigh them in the back. Then the grapes get into a refrigerated cell overnight. The next day they are in cool temperature, and it's perfect to process them slowly, and to then they all start to ferment spontaneously. So we don't add any selected yeast. It's the natural yeast that ferments all our wines, the whites and also the reds, as this Pinot Noir you have in your glass. It's still very young. 2019 is very young for Pinot, but it was a great vintage. So it's a wine with a great potential to age. And all the rest, I'd like to tell you when you come once to visit us. Cheers to you. Cheers to Piotr, who organized this tasting. Thank you for attending. And if there is any questions, write us an email or write them down to us now. I just see that somebody has already been here and likes the wines from the hotel where they are. That's our biggest challenge, fantastic for us, that the hotels in the mountains where you might go to ski or being summer have our wines, and so you can get our wines here, and sometimes they even might come to you to Poland. So have a great evening, have a great day. We hope to harvest good grapes for next vintage you can enjoy later on. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you. Thank you. Just one question, Michael.
Yes.
Yeah. The life expectancy of this wine is, according to you?
I would say the wine gets to its best in 4, 5, 6 years. I'm sure the wine will be good for at least 15 years, but it's not one of the red wines which you need to keep forever. I always tell our guests to enjoy the wines, to drink them, and not to keep them forever. From our area, the white wines can almost age better than the reds. That's one of the specialities of the soil of Terlano and the soil in some vineyards in Alto Adige. That gives the white wines a great aging potential.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks so
Thank
much.
you. And I hand over to Theo.
Yeah, and I don't know, Theo, I'm seeing you upside down.
Yeah?
We see him correctly.
That's funny.
Thank you. Good. So maybe
It's correct. It's correct.
I see him hanging down. Very strange.
Now the bird is down and the hair is up. Yes, it's fine.
So Theo, you're the brother of Emilio Zirok, who is the wine producer, the vintner of Hacienda Foradori. You have a younger brother, and it's now run by you and your sister and mainly your brother, and your mother Elisabetta is watching from above, from the mountains, right?
Yes, yeah, more or less. So yes, we're a family winery as well. Well, first of all, welcome and thank you for having me, and thanks to Piotr and also to Michael, of course. And we are a family winery it's now the third, well, I'm the fourth generation. And yes, my mother was very important in the international establishment of the winery, but my grandfather was already making wine. And my mother now makes cheese, and this I think speaks a lot to what respekt and BIODYN, I mean biodynamics in general, are about. I mean, we didn't start out to have cows to make cheese. We started out because we needed cows, because we wanted to close the cycle and work biodynamically in a proper way. So there was this thing about animals, and we said, okay, we're a winery, we don't really need or want any animal. I mean, we have our dog, we have our cats, but that's not good enough. So also for certification reasons, we said, okay, let's start to have some cows, and this was 15 years ago. And so for a decade, we just watched the cows doing their thing, and then all of a sudden, my mother was tired of making wines and traveling around, and my brother, who's doing the production, he's in charge of the vineyards and of the winemaking. I am his, let's say, consultant. I'm a bit the Richelieu of the winery. So I manage the export and I make sure that all the wine disappears. But then, of course, in terms of assembling the wines, deciding what new wines to produce or what trials to start, and we decide together. And then he makes it happen. So he has the control in the details. And my sister, she was in Canada for 2 years, and she was working on a garden market, basically on a farm that was serving garden market. And so when she came back, she said, I want to do this here. And we said, well, okay. We didn't really have the surface because by the way, I'm about 15, I guess, between 10 and 20 kilometers south of Michael. So we're very close. I'm in a different region. So Michael's Alto Adige is a German-speaking part, mostly, but historically it has been of German culture. While where we have the winery, we're one of the first. Yes, you see, this is a view in the image from the north. So you're looking south, and right behind that white cliff, right behind that's you turn right, and that's where we are. So this is exactly the point. This is taken from where I grew up, which is the last village in South Tyrol. So I'm basically, we are the Sicily of the German-speaking part. So, and it ends right before I get to the winery. So every day I cross hundreds of years of culture, and everything kind of changes. Because in the village where we are, Mezzo Lombardo, nobody speaks German. So what I want to say that we all work in the winery together, and we take the decisions together, and then everybody implements them, which is very often a bit annoying. But in generally, it's been working very well for us. And so we've been working. We did the first trial in biodynamics. My mother did the first trial in 1999. And in 2000, we converted the winery, and then it took us, I think, 6 or 7 years to get the certification as well. So I lived through, I was 10 at the time, so I lived through the changes from a kid. And everything, 10 years ago, the winery was completely different. There was less people, less young people. Me and my brother, especially me, it's important for me to have a team that is our age. Also in terms of generational respect, I cannot work with somebody who has been, managed by my mother for decades. Would be difficult for me to, in a way, be respected by him in the way that I respect him, or maybe it will always be this father-like situation. So this was very important for us as well. But everything has to do with creating an environment where people are happy to work. And this is very important for my generation, because in fact, there is no reason why somebody should stay in Mezzo Lombardo and work in the vineyard if he's 30, to be honest. The money is better, in other places. In fact, 10 kilometers north, it's better. So I need to create also, it's a need for me to create a situation where people my age want to work with me, and that they have, a very contaminating work environment. So here you can basically work in the vegetable production with my sister. You can start learning something about cheese. You can work in wine or in the vineyards, and at the same time you can also meet people from all over the world that come to taste the wines, and you can share basically your life. You don't want to go to work and feel like, it's always going to be annoying, but it doesn't have to be as annoying as people think that agriculture work has to be. So in this sense, this was a big challenge for us. The main variety we produce is called Teroldego, which is a variety that was always sold to Central Europe. So historically, it was an export. I mean, today it would be an export product, but at the time when things were more related to the Austrian Empire, of course, it was just the wine, the darker red wine from the southern colonies. So it is a variety. What you're drinking now is the Foradori, which is the most, I mean, the wine that we produce that is the most representative of the variety, I would say. So it's similarly to many vinification methods here. It's done in where we ferment in cement the Foradori for about 2 weeks, and then we put it in big oak barrels like the ones you saw before for about a year. It's 40 hectoliter barrels, so it's a very simple historic vinification method. This variety is, the interesting part is that it is a very it's a variety that has a very high amount of antioxidants, of anthocyanins. So it's a very blue variety. It's a particularly dark colored variety, but it doesn't really have the tannin structure of varieties that usually have that color. So it's actually lighter than it looks. It has a very good acidity. I mean, to the start. In fact, when I was a kid, the big problem was always, how do we get wines to sell after 1.5 or 2 years of the cellar that are actually ready to drink? I mean, they will never really be ready to drink. Can you stop at this image so I will explain? So they never will really be ready to drink when you release them. That way can we get closer, because at the time the problem was acidity. The climate was colder, the rains were coming earlier, so it was always a bit of a race. So you had 1 or 2 vintages out of 3 that were actually high in acidity in the beginning. With climate change, this created a lot of problems to other varieties in my area, with very low rates of acidity, which of course create more bacterial problems if you work with little sulfur and no selected yeast like we do. So it changed a lot. So today Teroldego is a very accessible and immediate variety compared to what it used to be 20 years ago. So things changed a lot. And agriculture, of course, biodynamics play a big role, because the pH changes drastically. Wines tend to be more crunchy, more acidic, more light when not deprived of a good, let's say, a balanced agriculture. We also produce wines in clay and phoros since we released the first wines in 2009, but in fact the amphoras arrived in 2005. We didn't really know how to use them, but we have a white wine variety called Nosiola, which is an indigenous variety that is very, very light-skinned and very tasteless. So Elisabetta, my mother, wanted to make a long maceration, and so the idea of clay was very interesting, because the relation to oxygen in clay tinajas is much more intense. So to macerate grapes for multiple months is not a problem. And so we started to do that, and we developed, I think today we make 40,000 bottles in amphora, which is basically 1/4, 1/5 of our production, depending on the year. But with 40,000 bottles in amphoras, I think we're the biggest amphora wine producer in Italy today. We have 280. They're like everywhere. So it's a lot more work, because they're not meant to be comfortable to work with, which is a bit of a drag. But I invite you to try the amphora wines as well. They all have the same vinification, so they all stay for 9 months on the skins, and then they're racked and assembled in cement vats for 3 months just to deposit, and then they go into the bottle. So yes, I think that to our soils, maybe quickly. I also come from the harvest. It's all a bit. I'm unprepared for this, of course. But our soils are very sandy. We're on an alluvial plain. So behind the mountains behind us were crumbled down during the last ice age and were dragged and rolled down the valleys. And so we are on a triangular plain that is about 500 hectares in total. And it was just washed with the sands and with the pebbles of the melting glaciers in the last ice age. So we basically have very good drainage on the soils. They're very fertile soils. In fact, too fertile sometimes. They're very good for vegetables, but the growth of the vines can be, extreme. So they tend not to accumulate density on the grapes. So it's very complicated to work with this, how to manage too much fertility. And then depending on which area in this plain you are, you have a denser or higher density or smaller density of dolomite pebbles. So you have a layer of round stones that are different in size and different in density. And so this is more or less I guess Silvia is showing up because she wants to cut me off because I tend to talk a lot.
Almost,
you're correct.
There is a question.
So,
how many hectares do you have?
Yes, we own 14 hectares of Teroldego in the area where we're now. We have 9 hectares on a 50-year lease, which is called Fontana Santa, where we make the white wines. And then we have another 3 hectares that we technically buy grapes from, which is 1.5 of Pinot Grigio and 1.5 of Michele, which is an old vineyard of vines that goes into the Granato. So in total, we work with 26 hectares, and we all work the vines ourselves. So even the 3 hectares that are technically bought, the agriculture is done by us.
Thank you. Any questions? We have to watch the time a bit. We are going to exceed a little. Any more questions to Theo?
No, but I guess it's fine.
Fine. So
If
thanks
there's
a lot, Theo.
anything, and I know it's very ugly to say, but social media is the quickest way to get information. So if there's anything you need, you can write there, or the emails are on the website as well.
Right. So thank you very much.
Just one question, if you don't mind. Do you think Teroldego will become more popular or in the world, in the other regions? Are there any plantations or anything?
Unfortunately not. So today there is more Teroldego planted outside of the Piana Rotagliana, my area, than inside. The problem here is that more than 95% of the surface is vinified by, it's called a social cooperative, it's actually not, but it's basically sucking up all the grapes and also not implementing better agriculture. So it's very difficult. This makes everything more expensive. The land is very expensive. It's not easy. If you're a young person, if you want to make wine here, you have no chance. So it's not easy. We are 7 wine producers on a surface of 700 hectares, of which 500 are Teroldego, and we're only 7. So it's too fragmented and too sucked up by the cooperative. There is a direct dependency, which is very hard to break. So until that collapses, from here, you won't have that much Teroldego. Right. In good quality. There is 1 or 2 other producers that I like to drink, but then it tends to often go in a very classical style that is not really interesting. Maybe it's too much a copying of maybe a different stylistic from Bordeaux. In fact, in the foreign Teroldegos, I had some very bad Australian ones, but I had some very interesting North American Teroldegos. I have to say, the Finger Lakes and Oregon are a region that could be actually a good potential area for this variety.
A very last and quick answer, please. Are you somehow connected with the Ampeglia project?
Yes, my mother started with 2 investors at the time, and now since 10 years, she's only a consultant. So Ampelea is independent, but the artistic direction was done from the beginning from my mother. And now Marco, who is from Mezzo Lombardo, from this village, has been taking over completely control. So the wines are very good, and it's a very interesting project in an amazing area of the world, in fact. But we're not directly connected. Unfortunately, we don't own Ampelea.
Thank you very much, dear.
Thank you, guys. Have a good evening.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
So we have 3 wineries left, and we're trying to speed up a bit. We're going back to Austria. We're going to the very eastern part of Austria, to Lake Neusiedl, and we are turning to Pitti, Gerhard Pittnauer, and he's presenting St. Laurent. Hi, Pitti. You're
The microphone. Yeah. Click on the microphone.
So
We can't hear you.
yeah, so it should work now.
Good. Yes.
Yeah. You can hear me now. Yes. Okay. So yeah. So hi guys. Pleasure having the possibility to talk to you. I have to confess, I'm not really prepared in terms of having folios and presentation. I'm in the middle of harvest and I'm literally sitting on pins and needles, and I realized there's some noise in the neighborhood, which was not before, but I try to do my best. I chose St. Laurent to show to you because we heard a lot about terroir, about sites, about circumstances, climatic, and so on, and I will tell you all this stuff as well. But I would like to talk also about passion because St. Laurent, and I think there's a similarity with the Foradori winery before. It's also not an easy grape, also not easy for a wide market. It's not very commercial in style, so therefore it needs passion. It needs passion generally for a wine maker, for a wine grower, for a vintner, especially when it comes to organic and when it comes to biodynamic growing. Yeah, so St. Laurent 2017 is from a vintage of mixed emotions. So we had a very cold January, we had warm March, we had late frost in May, we had warm periods in summer and cold periods in September during harvest. And but it worked out at the end. And I want to show 17 because to show that this tricky grape can get along with many difficult conditions during the year. So it's definitely not a single vineyard wine because I've chosen the basic St. Laurent, which comes from different sites from the plateau. So to begin, Gols is on the eastern shore of the Lake Neusiedl. That means literally in the very east of Austria, between the lake Neusiedl, which is a huge impact to the climate conditions, and the Hungarian border. And in fact, this part of Austria, Burgenland, was 100 years ago part of Hungary, but it was called German West Hungary because it was German speaking all the time. And it's joined 100 years ago to Austria and now is still the youngest member of Austria. But in geographical and in climatic terms, it's not comparable to the rest of Austria because it's rather comparable to the deep Hungarian plain. And that means that the plain south of my hometown, Gols, is pretty much the edge of the Hungarian deep plain. But what we have in the north of the village is a plateau. It's Danube gravel brought by the Danube thousands of years ago. And there we have on this edge of that plateau perfect conditions for a tricky and demanding and fussy grape like St. Laurent, because soil there is gravelly, it's sandy, it's light, and we do have wind over there. That means that this grape, which is very sensitive to botrytis because of its dense bunches, gets wind all the time and good drainage. So that means in fall after rain, we do have the drainage effect, and we do have the wind, which dries the grapes after rain. But it's still not easy. So we picked St. Laurent today, and I'm literally just jumped off the tractor and they brought the last grapes home. And going through the rows, I saw a lot of grapes there, not fitting to the idea, the quality of our St. Laurent quality. So why I chose St. Laurent 17, just to give you an idea about pure St. Laurent. So from different sides, from the northern part of Gauls, from the plateau, and to explain St. Laurent, so this grape is genetically related to Pinot Noir, and nobody knows how exactly, but that's proof in terms of genetic tests. And there's a very strong idea that it's a crossing perchance between St. Laurent, between Pinot Noir and another not known grape. And you can find similarities with Pinot Noir in St. Laurent, but you can find also differences with Pinot Noir. And that's that's why I believe that theory. Nobody knows the missing grape, but in my opinion, it must have been very similar to. It's definitely not Syrah, but it must have been very similar to Syrah, because you can find both in cool vintages. St. Laurent is rather Pinotish. In warm vintages, it's meaty, it's spicy, it's tending towards Syrah. What I like with St. Laurent, besides all the difficulties, is that it's always a light wine in terms of alcohol. So that means physiologically ripeness is with St. Laurent at about 17.5. Klosterneuburger Mostlager, which means percents in weight of sugar, and that's potential alcohol of 12, probably 12.5, but that's the maximum with full ripe St. Laurent. And we do have high acidity, and we've heard before the effects of global warming. And I think, especially when it comes to the effects of global warming, it's very good to have a grape which is not overpowered, which is not jammy, which is delicate, which is elegant, which has finesse. And that's exactly what I like with St. Laurent. We have the elegance and we have the finesse, and it's very subtle, but we also have deep color, and we have structure, and it's a serious red wine having some acidity and having low alcohol, and that's especially so I think taste changes all the time, and I realized that I prefer lighter red wines, a bit chilled red wines, especially during summer. So I think this is a big chance, and I'm very grateful to have this grape. If though it's sometimes really not easy. So if you take a nose of St. Laurent 17, you will find it probably a bit close at the beginning, probably also because of screw cap. But then if you wait a minute, you will find aromas of red berries, and you will find developing and breathing in the glass also sour cherry fruit, some plums, and it's gaining more and more complexity. And so even St. Laurent 17 is a basic wine. It's quite drinkable. So I want to show that it's drinkable after years and still has a future. Yeah. So while you're tasting, probably what I missed before. So my personal history is that I left school at the age of barely 16, helped my parents in the vineyard. Then 2 years later, my father died in very suddenly, so I had to take over at the tender age of 18. So it was tough, but very teachful. And what is interesting to me, so I followed the conversation about style, about generation change and change of style, and the first Riesling we tasted. So I'm a winemaker for a quite long time now, and I've changed my style several times because I took over from my father and his ideas and did a very puristic style of wines, fermented in concrete, spontaneously fermented old oak. Then it took a detour to over-selected yeast and new oak and so on. And with my conversion into biodynamics, which happened in 2006, I got back to a very pure style more and more. And just to give my idea of a change in style. So when we did a conversion in 2006, and we tasted the wines, we were like totally, we didn't understand what happened because we had aromas in our wines. After that 1 year, we had aromas like beetroot and horseradish. We never had in our reds before, until we realized that was just because of the biodynamic treatment in the treatment in the very first year of conversion, and that convinced not me, just me, so also my wife, who's working very, very strongly together with me and in a great, great partnership. She was a bit of suspect that all these extra efforts will bring really progress. But after tasting the first vintage, she said, yes, okay, that's the best way and the right way. And yeah, that's what happened. So it was, first step was conversion, and second was developing what happened outside in the vineyards, what we brought in the fruit, and it's now way deeper understanding and a way more trusting into the forces of nature. Yeah. So I think we over time, and yeah, and I have to run, and I'm glad to answer any question if possible and if
There are no
necessary.
questions. You're very lucky. There's just one saying, and she's right. It's Eva. Very elegant and very well balanced wines, and I think this is what your wines are about.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
You should
So
go and visit Pitti whenever you are in Austria.
I'm very pleased with that comment. Could be worse. Yeah.
Thanks so much, Pitti. See you.
So thank you very much. Thank you for your attention. Hope to see you again. Bye-bye.
Bye. So we're switching to the other side of the Lake Neusiedl, coming to Kurt Weiler of Weiler Attinger, and he is bringing his famous solitaire. Hi, Kurt. You have to switch on your video. Hello. Kurt, you're there. I've seen you.
It should work. It should work. Don't worry. Kurt joined us. It's fun.
I think he has left. He was in. Ah, no, he's there. Kurt, I can see that you're in. You have to switch on your video and your micro.
Mm-hmm. Kurt, in case of any problems, just log out and come back if you cannot do.
Then we might go to Nitnaus first. If you agree, Piotr? Or do you think it's
no? It should work. Well, give him a chance. Give Kurt a chance.
Yeah.
And yeah, so this is just. I believe this is this time, perhaps. Right. So Kurt, gdzie jesteśmy z Kurtem? Yeah, it works.
Great.
You see me? It works? Can you hear me?
We hear you. We don't see you.
Ah, okay. Hi, everybody.
Hi, Kurt. The camera. Click on the camera. Press the button.
Click on the camera. Sorry for the technical problems.
Yeah, no, it's okay. Yeah. Oh, okay. Hello. Yes. You're fine. Okay, go on.
So now I start my presentation a little bit. Okay. So hi, everybody. I'm Kurt Feiler from the other side of the lake, on the west side of Lake Neusiedler See, from Rust, Weingut Feiler-Attinger. Weingut Feiler-Attinger is mainly run by my wife, Katrin, and me, which you can both, you can see now in the vineyards here on this picture. And but it's also a family winery, which was founded by my grandparents, which was handed over to me by my parents, which you can see now in this picture. And I hope to hand it over to one of my children, or maybe two of the children's, in future and soon. You can see that they are also already grown up. And yeah, it's a family-run winery with about 8 people working the whole year with us in the vineyards and in the winery, and of course with some more pickers at the moment. Yeah, just briefly to say that we are from the other side. We are from Rust, directly at the center of the Lake Neusiedler See, on the west side of the lake, so about 40 minutes away from Gols, from Pitti, and from Nitnos, which comes after me. This is a picture down from the hills that surround Rust on the west side. Look over the village of Rust, over the 2 churches, down on the Lake Neusiedler See. And then we make the opposite view from the Catholic Church. We see the Protestant church and the old fisherman chapel and the vineyards in the back. So Rust is a very historic place with old historic center. Also our house here in the main street is a very old house. And Rust is not only famous for the wine, but also for the storks. And this is, we are really happy that we have a lot of these crazy birds, I would say, on our roofs. And they are here from March to end of August. And as I said, they are sometimes crazy, and you can get crazy pictures from them. This is from one of the nests from our house, a picture which I took last year when the stork started its flight. So, but we are on the wine more than on the birds. So this is the winery where we, my parents live in, where we produce all our wines. It's really in the center. It's Hauptstraße number 3. And this is the opposite view again. So the courtyard in the house. It's one of the bigger houses in Rust with about 3,000 square meters of surface. And we have about 1,000 square meters of cellar. So the production is well integrated, well hidden in the winery, I would say. And this is one of the cellars. This is the old historic part of the cellar. And also important for the red wines, because this part of the cellar is only used for red wines, for malolactic fermentation and for aging. But today I present my top red wine, which is normally in one of the newer parts of the cellar, which is filled with, which is the place for the new barrels, barrique size. I'm a big fan for the top reds, to give them a lot of air, to give them time to develop. So they are 2 years in barrique size barrels. And what means it's about 50% new oak and 50% second fillings on the solitaire. Of course, we work biodynamic because we part of a respekt group, and it's a respekt seminar. But to have, cow horn and the 500 preparation is a very important preparation, which we spray at least 3 times, sometimes 4 times in a year. And I mean, we in our winery, we had cows very long time, up to 97. We had a cattle farming in the winery, in the house as well. And then we had to stop the cattle farming because we needed place for some more wine, and we grew up with the red wine production. We needed cellars for the small barrels. But then we came back with biodynamic farming. We came back to cattle farming, and what we see on this picture here is that we do the cattle farming now completely outside on the fields. In winter in the vineyards. The vineyard which you see in the back of the cows is also one of our vineyards, which is then mowed by the cows in winter. But in summer, as you see on the picture, when the leaves are still green, when those grapes are still on the vines, they would also eat the grapes, the cows, so they are on the grassland, which is beside the vines. And with having cows, we have a natural fertilizer in the natural fertilization in the vineyards, but we also have can use the manure from the cows for our own 500 preparation. So we don't have to we have to buy the horns, because I have Angus cows which have no horns. They are selected to have no horns. But for some other, they are very gentle, very calm cows. So that's the reason why we choose this kind of cows. So I buy the horns for the 500 preparations, or 501, which I do, and the manure is coming from my own cows. That was important for me. But it's also, the second effect is that we work a little with compost tea, and I do also get use part of the manure from the cows for produce compost tea, and the compost tea is sprayed once in the year to really in early spring, to really start the season of the soil, of activate the soil and the wines, especially in spring. That's one of our special things we do in our way of living biodynamic and of working respectfully in our vineyards. Of course, we harvest by hand. This is a white grape here on this picture, Welschriesling, which we picked not this year, not so far. And these are the vineyards of Rust. You see in dark gray here. I'll show with the mouse. Here is Rust, the town, and surrounded with the vineyards. As I said, the vineyards are planted on the gentle slopes of the hills of the Ruster Hügelland, and the solitaire wine, which we are talking about, which we are tasting, is mainly coming from the northern side. You see, this is I don't see which way you have the picture on your screen, but this is you see the red sign here. This is the Umriss. This is the northern side here, and the Blaufränkisch, which is used in or is the base for the solitaire wine, is mainly from the Umriss vineyard. There's a little from a second vineyard from the Oberer Wald, and also the next level, so a little further to the lake, from the Gemerk here, in my case, very right. Here comes the Merlot which is also part of this wine I present. This is a picture, a natural picture of the Umriss. You see this valley, smooth, gentle slopes running towards the lake Neusler See of Umriss vineyards, and this is a perfect terroir for Blaufränkisch, because also it's pure limestone soil with a very shallow, very light, you see 0 to 30 centimeters topsoil, quite not very rich in humus, It's quite a sandy topsoil. So the roots really go here into the limestone rock. And in the limestone, in the fossil limestone, the fossil limestone stone stores the water. And so with digging into this limestone, the roots are avoided from water stress in summer, because the summers are warm, rather dry. But here it really works because the stone stores the water and holds the water. And with digging into the stone, the roots also extract a lot of minerals. And so the Blaufränkisch is quite spicy, quite peppery, fruity and elegant from this limestone terroir. What we also do is we give the wines a lot of time in the cellar. It's a major aspect of giving wines time. And so as I rest here on my big barrels, the wine rests in big and small, especially the solitaire and small barrels for, as I said already, 2 years. So this is the wine we're talking about, Solitaire. Solitaire is, as I said, my top red wine. It is always a Blaufränkisch based blend, or with sometimes over 85% percentage of Blaufränkisch, also a single varietal Blaufränkisch wine, but it's never 100% Blaufränkisch. It's always blended with a little bit of a second or third grape, Merlot, for giving a little bit more, or adding a little bit more softness, roundness, sweetness on the tongue, especially in the middle of the wine, and sometimes a little bit 1, 2, 3% of Cabernet Sauvignon to give in a second extra aroma to the wine, which I really like. It's it's a wine that's produced with vintage 2018 now for 31 years. Not every vintage has been brought on the market, because if it's not worth the wine, if the vintage is too rainy, which was the case in 2014, for example, or also in 2010 or in 91, for example, then we don't do any solitaire. But normally the weather is fine and nice, as this year also. And so we have produced our solitaire from the best Blaufränkisch grapes, and from, as I said, Merlot and sometimes Cabernet Sauvignon as well.
Solitaire rules: wonderful wine, great, outstanding, wow. Martina says. And Wojciech, Solitaire.
I can't read the chat.
One of our best-selling wines. Great.
Yeah, I'm almost through with I'm through with my presentation, in fact, so I can maybe close it. If there's any question, yeah, here I am again. Talk with all my hands and so on.
If there are no more questions, Piotr, maybe you, and otherwise.
Thanks for the nice comments. Nice.
Yeah, perfect comments.
Well, that's really, really good Blaufränkisch with a small dose of Merlot, and I believe this is it's really outstanding. If you want to spread the idea, so you should use the wines like this. It's something which is very approachable. Which is easy to drink, and which is also for the let's say the more experienced wine lovers. It's very nice, and that's something like, let's say, it's a Raymond Chandler. Everybody reads Raymond Chandler, so this is something like that.
What a great compliment.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much, Kurt.
It was a pleasure. Thank you.
We're going back to Gols, where Pitti is coming from, and where 7 of our producers are at home. And we are saying hello to Martin Nittnaus, the son of Anita and Hans Nittnaus. He's taking over the winery, and he brought a Blaufränkisch. Hi, Martin.
Hi everybody. Can you hear me? All right. So, hi everybody. My name is Martin Nittnaus from the Hans and Anita Nittnaus winery in Golz, same town where BIODYN is from. And I'm about to overtake that winery with my brother together. We are working on 44 hectares, so it's quite a bit. And everything, obviously, 100% is biodynamically certified. And we produce 90% red wine, 10% white wine. So my father was one of the capos in the 90s of the red wine movement. And he was one of the first initiators of quality red wine making in Austria. But he was always looking for new borders and new aims in his life, in his winemaking life. And I have the feeling that, you know, since he passed like 65 years of age, he is still working very, very heavily in the vineyard. I think he really found now his one big obsession, and that's Blaufränkisch. Blaufränkisch, the big or most common grape of Burgenland. So it's a very mysterious red wine grape, I think. It was always the traditional grape in Burgenland. It was also widely grown in Hungary. Obviously, as Piti has already told you, we used to belong to Hungary. That was called Kek Frankos. Always very widely planted in Czech and in Slovakia, an area called Frankovka Modra. And it really stretched way east to the Carpathian Mountains until Romania. And everywhere, old vines with Blaufränkisch can be found and can be traced. Now, people always ask me, what does Blaufränkisch actually always kind of taste like? And I say, I can't compare it. If I would have been going on this out on a limb, I would have said, well, imagine a triangle, and in one corner you have a very rustic, very fine mineralic Burgundian Pinot Noir. On the second corner, you have like very old Nebbiolo from the Piemonte, and in the third corner you would have a really crisp, tight Northern Côte d'Iron. And in the middle somewhere there is a really fine mineralic Blaufränkisch. And although that sounds kind of megalomaniac because these three are some of the greatest wines in the world, you still can feel the Blaufränkisch. But I think I'm really definitely convinced it's up there. But we shouldn't compare it, actually. We should really find its own soul and treasure. So the winery is at the east side of the lake. And it wasn't until the 2000s that my father walked across the lake. Well, he didn't go across the lake, but he went to the west side of the lake and looked in the vineyards and found a completely different terroir there. There you had limestone, as in really champagne, the yellowy limestone, and slate soil. And then he discovered that's the Leiterberg Mountains. These are the last parts of the Alps mountain range. And that's why you have such amazing soil there. And then we started to overtake and work on old Blaufränkisch vineyards, or what's left of them, because unfortunately a lot of these old Blaufränkisch wines got torn out and replanted with other stuff. But we really try to rejuvenate the old Blaufränkisch grapes, and we are having one of the 4 single vineyard Blaufränkisch that we produce, and that one is called the Lange Ohn. And I think in the picture there, that's the Lange Ohn right there. Ohn is basically an old word for meadows. So it basically means long hills or long meadows. It's one single vineyard. It's basically clay and limestone soil. It's a southeastern exposition. It's 35, almost 40 years of age. And it's a beautiful site. It's a little bit later ripe than the other vineyards, but it always got a really nice, I don't want to say rustic, but a really nice mineralic, nice texture to it. We started with this wine in 2016, but in 2018, it really was an emphasis. When you smell the wine, you really find aromas that are definitely not connected with Blaufränkisch at first. It was when we opened it and when we bottled it and we opened the wine, and really offered blueberries, like this red currants, black currants, almost like lilac, raspberry flavors that would normally be not associated with Blaufränkisch. So Blaufränkisch, for example, in the Mittelburgenland, always get a lot of peppery and herbal notes. But we are north, we have different mineralic soil, and it really offers a totally new chapter to a Blaufränkisch making. So basically everything is handpicked and spontaneous fermentation in big wooden fermenters. But one big change happened to how we did Blaufränkisch in the 2000s and the 90s. So we destemmed the berries, but we didn't crush them anymore. So we take them crushers out, and the whole berries just falls through. And I think that's my theory, but my father maybe contests me on this. But I think since we did this, the whole berries, the tannins really tend to get softer, smoother, more refined, more interwoven. And I was really happy that we continue making the Blaufränkisch even in the top premium expositions in a less extracting way. And I think that also offers a new way of looking at premium wines, grape wines. Back in the day was like 90s, beginning 2000s, in some of the areas still today, until today, big, like a heavy maceration or a lot of extraction was considered premium or good, just because I don't actually know why. I think in some of the grapes we have to look at less extraction, more gentle punch downs, etc., etc. I think that makes a wine sometimes even refine, especially when you want to bring out the terroir, as we try so hardly. So just a couple of quick facts. Harvest was selected by hand in September 12 in 2018. So 18 was a really weird year. I think it's a great year, but it started out very cool, and we had a warm spring. Flowering then was really, really early, up until July, and the nights were also very, very hot. And that's why we had the most early, like the earliest vintage I can ever remember. We started harvesting the 20th of August. Nevertheless, Blaufränkisch has basically two big advantages. In a very warm year, the acidity stays very high until a very long late point. So the ripeness kind of goes like this. Compared to, for example, a Merlot, the ripeness goes very slowly. A Merlot goes very quickly. And in a cool, rainy year, they don't pop up and mold so quickly and easily as other grapes. So I think Blaufränkisch is ideal for our area, which is actually very good because it was always our tradition. So Langeois is one of the 4 vineyards. Just a quick word on the biodynamic point. I can really see, I mean, since we turned over and started working biodynamically, apart from the fact that the vineyards look healthier, the wines for me taste more complex. And by more complex, I mean they offer every year different aromas that I never had in even a Blaufränkisch before. So the wine really offer a multitude of colors and shapes and figures. And I think this is due to the biodynamic change, because just from the pure fact that back in the day, we didn't have these aromas and the length. So just logically, it must have been the biodynamic aspect. And I think that's what makes it really, really worth pursuing. To quick time, yeah. So again, a quick fact. So the winery in Mittenhaus again is situated in Gols. We are working on 44 hectares. I already said that. Most of the widely planted red one is Zweigelt, but I think the one that sticks out or maybe gives us our identity is Blaufränkisch, and we really want to pursue that as I don't want to say most extreme, but as heavily and as enlighteningly as possible. Yeah, so basically I was very quick. If there's any more questions, please let me know. I'm happy to answer them.
Thanks a lot, Martin. Both Blaufränkisch are amazing for us, Tomek says.
Thank you so much. I'm really glad to hear that.
Any more questions? Maybe 2 words about you and your brother taking over, how this is going to evolve.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I've said I'm more or less the 4th generation. So wine has been in my family very long. I think it can be traced since 1684 or something. But wine back in the day was with cows and cattle. It was just farming. And in '86, when I was born, my mother and my father overtook the company and brought it up in the '90s. And now me and my brother, we will overtake the company together with my cousin. So my brother, he studied œnology in Montpellier in France. And I studied something different, but I always did harvests around, like in Germany and in Austria and all around the world. And then I decided to do it with my brother. So we are a big, really a big family tradition. Yeah, a team. Yeah.
That's very special in Respekt BIODYN. So many brothers and sisters working together. It's amazing.
Absolutely. It's not always easy, but I think when it works, you fly. So that's because you know really who you're working with, and that's you have such an intrinsically connection to everything. Yeah.
So we wish you flying high.
Thank you so much.
Nitnos Blaufränkisch, great body. We are impressed. Beautiful.
Thank you. And just one more question. I really find the most insightful comments about our wine in other countries, or not only like in Austrians they do, but I think we're not so captured by the stereotype that how our wine is supposed to be. So especially the Grüne Veltliner on the white side and the Blaufränkisch on the red. But when you present it to people with other countries, they're not so blocked by this, and they can perceive the wine without having a picture in the head as it how it's supposed to taste like. And that's, I think, very grateful. And I always love to hear comments from people in other countries. Yeah.
Not being stuck to the grapes.
Definitely, yeah.
So we're coming to an end. You gave a new perspective on Blaufränkisch, Eva says.
Thank you so much. This was my aim in a way. I try to focus my talk on Blaufränkisch because the other winemakers have talked so eloquently and brilliantly about BIODYN. I'm just going to try to offer a new chapter here. And this is my great-grandfather. So here, and he also made some Blaufränkisch, and he also did hand harvest in the wooden vat. So we basically make wine like this guy.
That's mainly biodynamics, right?
Yeah, definitely. Because back in the day, they didn't have the chemical industry to spray Roundup or anything like that. I mean, that's like 20s or something. So 1920s. So that's ironically that actually the whole development of chemical warfare, for what I call it provocatively, in the vineyard starts in the 60s and 70s. Back in the day, they didn't have anything, spontaneous fermentation. Yeah.
Right. So, Piotr?
Yeah. Well, that was really nice. Yeah. Thank you. Yes. That was really nice. As I said at the beginning, well, actually, let's say the wines of your father were my first love in category of Austrian reds, and I never before it I never the Zweigerts in the 2000 were not so, say, and the Blaufränkisch as well, or not. But when I met your father wines, that was something. So, yeah. And it's not getting rusty now.
No, definitely not. No, I can vouch for this every day.
Yeah, really good now. Both the
Dziękuję bardzo.
Oh, yeah. Perfect.
And I have to say that we used to have a Polish cellar master for 15 years now, or 20 years, I think. And he's a brilliant guy, yeah.
Yeah. And you learn some words from him.
Yeah, but they're not good to talk out loud. So.
Yes, but they're very useful.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah. Okay. Well, that's it, Sylvia. I believe.
And thanks to all the producers. Thanks to all the audience. Being there, enjoying the wines of Respekt BIODYN. If you have any questions, just go on our website and send us an email. There's a lot of documentation over there, the whole rules, the principles. So this is quite informative. And if you still lack any answer, just send us an email. You're most welcome. Thanks to you, Piotr, for organizing this. It was a great pleasure before, and we'll keep in touch anyway.
Keep in touch. Yes. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye. And good night. Good night.
Good night and good luck.
Bye-bye.
Bye.